Back in March 2025, I waved goodbye to my long-term Genesis Electrified GV70, and it was a sad day. Not just for me, but for the whole family, because my partner Liz had truly fallen for its luxurious charms. Yet we seem to be in the minority because Genesis in the UK are still struggling to make a dent, an impact if you will, on the market in which it competes against its mainstream rivals such as BMW, Audi and Mercedes-Benz. So to try and change that, Genesis have decided to refresh their entire three-car lineup here in the UK, starting with our beloved electrified GV70. Yet on the face of it, it doesn't seem like they've done an awful lot. So what actually have they done? Time to find out in this week's road test review. As I say, welcome to the newly revised Genesis GV70 Electrified, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before I get started on this week's review of the newly revised Genesis Electrified GV70, it is of course the time where I would just ask a small favour of you. Could you just make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel for me, if you don't mind? Then when you've done that, make sure you then press the little bell button that's down below, because then that's the way you'll be notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched the review, if you enjoy it, and obviously I sincerely hope you do, make sure you give it a little thumbs up for us, and don't forget, leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars featured on the channel, such as the Genesis Electrified GV70, and of course on the AutoEV channel overall. Now, I probably don't need to go into too much detail about who Genesis actually are, because I think by now we all know they are the luxury arm of the Hyundai group. And they became a standalone brand back in 2015, but they didn't launch in the UK until 2020. Probably not the best year to launch a brand new luxury car brand in the UK, but there you go. These things happen. And they did things slightly differently, or they certainly wanted to do things slightly differently, because they didn't want traditional showrooms. They wanted to try and move everything online and to be a very sort of like personal experience. You know, you could order a car from the comfort of your own home. You know, you'd be assigned a personal assistant who would look after you through the whole process. You know, the car comes with, you know, 5-year warranty, 5-year service, and they'd collect and deliver it to your home or your office when it came to servicing and stuff. But I think in the UK, in some respects, I think we're still quite, well, I still think we quite like to go into car showrooms and see what our money's actually going on, especially when it comes to luxury cars, you know, that cost tens of thousands of pounds. I think if you're buying, I don't know, a new laptop case or a phone case or a CD or whatever, you know, you can download it or whatever, you can order it off Amazon, that's fine. But tens of thousands of pounds on a new car, and dare I suggest, an unknown brand, you probably wanted to go into a showroom and sort of like see them and touch them and say, oh yeah, that's a bit of me. Then they made the decision that what they were going to do was they were going to become an electric only brand. So they had a bit of a culling of their models. So the G70 Saloon, the G70 Shooting Brake, the G80 Saloon in petrol and diesel form, the GV70, which is this SUV, in petrol and diesel form, and the GV80, almost half of their entire range got blitzed overnight and got canned and said, that's it, we're just going electric. So all that was left was the small GV80 luxury crossover car, the electrified GV70 and the electrified G80 Saloon. And they've all gone through a little bit of a revision for 2025 to give them a little bit of an uplift, a little bit of a refresh, a facelift if you like, to try and keep them competitive. And here's the thing, there's been a bit of a backtrack with Genesis of late, because not only are they now starting to admit that actually buying cars that way might not suit everyone, and maybe we should have some dealerships, which they're starting to do, they've also taken the decision that future models may also include combustion engines and hybrids, because they do now see the fact that maybe not everyone is ready to go electric. But the GV70 remains an electric only car, as does the rest of the Genesis range in the UK at the moment. And as I say, having run one for 6 months, it is a proper hidden gem in the marketplace. And people, I think, are struggling to really sort of take notice of the car. So Genesis have gone back to the drawing board with it a little bit. They've changed a few bits and pieces. There's been some revisions to the inside, revisions to the battery, technology, that type of thing, and the model range itself, in the hope that people will maybe walk past the BMW, Audi and Mercedes-Benz showroom and into a new Genesis showroom and take a look at one of these. But should you? Have they done enough to make sure that you don't go and buy the usual brand from Germany and buy one of these instead? Well, let's find out, shall we? However, as always, before we start the main review, let's take a look at the bullet points on the new Genesis Electrified GV70. So as before, the GV70 is a medium-sized premium electric SUV that competes with the likes of the BMW iX3, Audi Q8 e-tron and the Porsche Macan. For 2025, the car has a bigger 84 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery that can see the car travel for up to 298 miles between charges. As well as a lot of design changes and a bigger battery, the technology has also been enhanced and now includes the Hyundai Group's new virtual gear shift technology, simulating an automated manual transmission with 8 gears. And 3 trim levels are now available, with prices starting from just under £66,000. But here's the thing, if you weren't buying it before and they haven't changed that much on the face of it, what's going to make you reconsider it now? Well, the only way we're going to find that out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. And even on the hottest day of the year so far, folks, it's still the AutoEV one. So, what have they done to the styling? Well, on the face of it, not an awful lot, but in fairness, I really don't think they needed to. I still think this is a really handsome looking car. I really like this. Now, the one I had was white with the black leather, but in this dark metallic capri blue, I think it looks stunning. I really do, especially with the white leather inside. Not the most practical of leather, but we'll talk about that in a wee bit later. But yeah, this is a handsome looking beast, I think. They have done some subtle changes. You still get the twin line signature Genesis design cues, which you see round the car, you know, but mostly in the sort of like the light signatures. But they now have a thing called micro array lens headlights, so you get these sort of like tiny, almost sort of like cube lights in there, and they do throw some gorgeous beam of light across the road at night, so that is good that way. There is a restyled lower front bumper as well, so just this area here, give it a much more muscular look, and that's across the Genesis range. So the 3-car range, the GV60, the GV70 and the G80 all get this sort of new sort of like style of bumper here. You've got a slightly revised crested grille at the front, although it's only very slightly revised, but you do still get the world's best charging flap, which is now electric, believe it or not. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with the way it just opened normally anyway, but it's also heated, which is a good thing, because obviously we don't want it freezing up. And there's a new sort of like charging lamp signature in there as well. But it's quite a, I will say, I'm not a big lover of these electric flaps because I think they take too long, but that's quite quick. It's certainly quicker than the likes of the Audi and what Porsche do as well, so that's quite good. You still get this sort of like lovely sculpted bonnet with the Genesis, the winged Genesis badge that people still think is a Bentley badge, you know, in the bottom there. And really neatly integrated forward-facing camera there. Huge amount of tech on the car, massive amount of tech on it. That's one of the big things with it. And also, the normal you get those big black, you know, sensors down there for the radar guided cruise control. Not on the Genesis. It's actually below the camera. You can hardly see it, but in the grille, there's the sensor is part of the grille. And of course, it still gets the sort of like the diamond pattern across it, so you can barely notice it until you're right up to it. That's the sensor for it. That's lovely. They still insist on doing these sort of like slightly plastic lower areas here, which I still think should be a nice wire mesh personally, but that's, you know, fair enough. Then it's body colour now. It used to be black on my car, and then you get this sort of like silver titanium sort of like bit down at the bottom. Of course, parking sensors and stuff like. But yeah, they've kept the main look of the car, and the overall dimensions haven't really changed on it. But as I say, I still think it's a good looking car. I always did, but I do love it in this spec. I think this is a really good looking car. Now, in side profile, you're going to really struggle to tell the new car apart from the old one. The only way you really can is new wheel designs, okay? In some respects. There's 3 trim levels available now. There used to only be one called Sport, which is what I had, which was a weird name for it because it's not a sporty car as such. I'll talk about that a bit later on. But basically now you get 3 trim levels. You get your lead-in pure model, which gets the 19-inch wheels, which were available on the old car. And then you move up to the dynamic or the luxury, which this one is. And you get 20-inch wheels. This design of 20-inch wheels, which is a really nice design, I think, on the car as well. They're wrapped in Michelin's Pilot Sport EV tyres, or good tyres, and this particular car's got one of the options. This one's got all the options on it, and this one's got the white brake calipers. I'm not sure I'd probably have those on this car. I had them on my car, but on this one the wheel covers the most of them, so I do think that's a bit of an odd decision to do. I'd probably just stick with the standard one and save yourself some money. But yeah, it's the same medium-sized sort of like, you know, luxury SUV, electric SUV that it was before. The only thing that there's two things that grate me on the car, okay? There's this line here, and I've mentioned this before on quite a few of the times, where it goes from being sort of like a flat plane there to then coming up to being a vertical one as the bonnet comes to the back, and it gives it a bit of an overbite at the front of the bonnet there. That's the first thing that it's always upped me that a little bit. The second thing is there's an awful lot of chrome on it. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel chrome sort of yesterday's luxury. Now I understand that some markets that this car will sell in will see that as being the mark of a luxury car, but it's not very sustainable. And for an electric car company like Genesis, who are quite sustainable in a lot of ways, I'm not quite convinced that chrome is the answer. I think there could have been a better choice, dare I suggest, than chrome. I'm not sure what, but for me it just, I don't know, it's the only thing that irks me a little bit on the car. But as I say, you do get this chrome sort of like window line here, and then of course your chrome window line around the top there, it sweeps down, and this anodized sort of like silver roof rails, which obviously are standard. You get the cameras embedded into the door mirrors there, because it's got the brilliant blind spot monitoring system, you know, where you put the indicator on, it shows you what's in your blind spot on the actual dashboard. I do like that. And then obviously this sort of like, you know, this sort of like the three light sort of like side profile here with a little window at the back here as well. But it's still the same GV70 that we always had. One thing I do love about it, however, is the fact the doors wrap right round the bottom of the sill. So as you get in and out, you get a clean sill there, so you've got light trousers on or a floaty skirt, you're not scraping against the sill. And it's also the same on the back door as well, because it also takes some of the wheel arch away as well. I do like that. That's quite a nice little design touch on it. But yeah, it's pretty much as we've seen with the GV70. And round the rear of the car, well, it looks again very, very similar. At first glance, you're going to say they haven't done anything. They have. There's some very, very small tweaks to it. The indicators used to be down here. They're now actually embedded in the twin light design up here. So these are new light units that they've got here. This area here has been redesigned as well, this lower section here. So of course you get twin line again here in this chrome finish. New lights down there. You also get this little pod here. Now that's an option, that's a rear camera. It's not a reversing camera because that is still down underneath the actual tailgate there. But you can now option it with a digital rear view mirror as well. So you can flip between a standard mirror and a camera view as well. And it's actually quite good. So in low light conditions, that is actually quite a good camera. And it's way up at the top there. I've always loved the high level brake light in this car because it's just a thin strip across the back of the trailing edge of the rear wing at the top there. It's a really nice rear light design. And again, you don't get the sort of like the tailgate release underneath the hatchback. It's embedded into sort of like the wiper arm there, so you're not getting your hands dirty if you're trying to open your tailgate. You just press the little button there, which I like. And as I say, this area down here is redesigned. Of course, you can still get your parking sensors and so forth like that. Genesis badging there, and the fact that it's just GV70 there. So what do we think? Well, look, I really like it. As I say, there are bits of it that I don't like. You know, there's a couple of little bits, areas that I've pointed out around it. I think they could have changed maybe for the facelift. They should maybe have changed them for the facelift. But I'm glad they've sort of like kept the overall look of the car, because I do still think it's a very distinctive looking car, and we still get questions about the car. We've been driving it this week. Even Liz has been driving around in this car this week, and she still gets people coming up to going, "Gosh, is that a new small Bentley SUV or Aston?" Believe it or not, we got asked if it was an Aston Martin SUV once with the car. You know, people do, they're not, and when you tell them it's Genesis, they don't sort of like go, "Ooh," you know, they don't reel back in horror. They're going, "Wow, that looks something special." So there's a bit of work to do for the brand, I suggest, you know, raising the profile. And they're going to be doing that because they're going endurance racing at Le Mans next year as well. And I say what they've done to sort of like the range this year, you know, so far, I've driven 2 of the revised cars. It's very good, in fairness. But have they done enough? What do you think? Doesn't really matter what I think, it matters more what you think. Have they done enough? Should they have done more? Should it have been a completely different car? Should they have changed more of it? Should they have bothered changing it at all? Do you have one? Have you even a petrol or the diesel one? Because you used to be able to get it with a 2.5 turbocharged petrol engine or the 2.2 diesel. What made you buy the Genesis over, say, the BMW, the Audi or the Mercedes-Benz? What's your experience with the company been like? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, on the face of it, with Practicality, which obviously stays the same to the old car, you think to yourself, 503 litres, which is what the GV70 has, is a decent amount of space for this size of car. Should be all right. You know, you should get plenty of, bearing in mind a big BMW iX is only 500 litres. So, you know, and that's a class bigger than this. So you think 503 litres is fine. And if you fold down the rear bench, the 60-40 split bench, it takes total capacity up to 1,678 litres. And that can be done via the two levers in the boot lid. So again, sorry, in the side of the boot. So that's quite, you know, handy in that sense. The problem is, whilst the sort of like the measurement of volume is there, the actual practicality isn't. And I've always found this with the Korean manufacturers, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis. They're very shallow, the boot. The floor space is fine, but they're really shallow to the parcel shelf there. That parcel shelf sits below, or the roller blind sits below the back of the rear seat. So if we take our 4 suitcases, yeah, there's our large one. It doesn't go in that way because obviously the roller blind's in the way. Even a small carry-on, if you try and put in that way, it won't go in. So as I say, there is space for the suitcases, but you've got to take the roller blind out. And to be fair, we always measure the cars with the roller blind in place with the suitcases in. So, it's a bit of a struggle. The other thing they've done is the cables. Now, I used to store my cables underneath the bonnet. You've got a 25 litre space underneath the bonnet, and that was easy enough to do. They've now decided to put them in this big case. So this has got to go somewhere as well. So, you know, and it's velcroed to the floor. I understand what you're doing, Genesis. You're trying to finish it and make it look really, really lovely. But the reality is, it's not handy doing it that way, I have to say. So if I take that out and we leave the blind back in that sense, can we get 4 suitcases in? Well, look, there's the big suitcase there. We have to put it in that way. There's our medium one. And you see what I mean? There's space down the side there. So you can get, you know, one in there like that. You could also maybe get that one down there. That's carry-on will fit down there. You know, and I've still got extra space in there for a rucksack and for an extra bit of equipment bag, and I could get the cable bag in if I put it in there like that. But I can't do it with the roller blind shut, which is what we measure all cars with on AutoEV. So, as I say, the volume might be there, but the practicality isn't in that respect. So, you know, in fairness to all the other manufacturers that we've criticised, I'm going to criticise the Genesis as well. And the thing is, if they just moved that, you know, or just did a slightly different, you know, mounting area for it, or a slightly different version, you know, a slightly different redesigned version of that, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. But as it is, yeah, it does limit the space in the back. However, there are some practicalities with the boot space in terms of not just the overall luggage space itself, because you've got a power takeoff in here with a 3-pin socket. You've also got a 12-volt socket there. As I say, you can knock the rear seats down by just pulling back on those levers. There's also some nice sort of like, you know, chromed sort of like tie-down lashing points if you're using luggage nets. Plus as well, there's a small amount of underfloor storage for, not much in fairness, but you know, the vehicle to load adapter lives in there. You've got, you know, sort of like high-vis jacket in there, TAR mobility kit, and there is a space. If you do take that out, you can actually store it across the back underneath the actual boot floor as well. So that is quite good. But as I say, yeah, it's just a bit disappointing that the rear sort of like boot volume hasn't really been made enough of. However, a lot of its faults back there are starting to get forgiven about as you move inside the car. Okay, now in fairness, rear seat accommodation is okay for the car. No, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting it's perfect. You know, there are bigger cars in the class, but again, you know, we're a family of 3 with a small dog. It was perfect for us, the absolute right size for us in terms of interior space. But what you do get now, as I say, I fully appreciate this colour isn't the most practical when you have children, but I tell you what, it doesn't half open up the interior. It feels more voluminous. I had a black leather interior in mine, and this feels bigger. It's not, it's exactly the same size, but it feels bigger because it just feels more spacious. And you've also got the light headlining, and of course this car's got the panoramic glass sunroof as well that mine had. But yeah, this is a really, and it feels special back here. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about that when we move to the front of the car. Accommodation in the rear. Enough legroom for me. I'm 5'8", that's my driving position. There's enough legroom for me. I can get my feet underneath the seat and wiggle them around, so that's okay. You've also got the ability on this side to move the passenger seat forward, so if obviously if the kids are in the back and there's no one sitting in the front, they can push that a bit forward. You've also got vents here, you've also got rear climate control as well, with heated rear outer seats in this particular model as well. We've also got the blinds integrated into the door here as well, the nice little chrome hooks there. Now, would you get 3 across? Yes, you will. 3 children across, because I had 3 across the back of mine at one stage, and it's not a problem at all. There's a slight rise in the floor, because remember, although there's just an electric only car now, you used to be able to get it with a combustion engine, but actually, in fairness, you could actually get someone in the centre there and they wouldn't really have a problem with that. There's a fold down armrest as well, with some nice cup holders in with a nice chrome sort of, bezel around them as well. Isofix points are nice and easy to get to. The door bins, they're not huge, but they're there, and they do have like enough space for probably to drop a water bottle in. As I say, my daughter Katie used to drop them in there, no problem. And you get the netted pockets on the backs of the front seats for things you want to store there as well. You've also got 2 USB-C ports down there, which are just below the climate control. So yeah, no, look, as I say, there are bigger cars in the class, no doubt about it, but in terms of the feeling of spaciousness, it helps with the lighter interior and the sunroof, which really opens the car out as well. But it's the feeling of specialness that this car has that I don't think the others can touch, and I'm going to talk about a lot more about that as I jump up into the front. I hope you can hear me above. I've had to get the fan going with the aircon on and the cooled seats, because it is so hot in here because of the weather today, which is lovely to have. I shouldn't complain about this UK having gorgeous weather, but it is hot. Anyway, right, so lot changed up here. This is one of the main focuses of the facelift car, and I must admit, hands up, when I saw it in pictures I went, don't like that. I wish they'd kept the old one, which was a separate binnacle, a screen, and then you had these lovely sort of like HVAC controls in this little elliptical thing here, and I just thought, oh no, I'm not going to like it. Oh, was I wrong? This is way better, and I thought the old one was good. And the main reason I think it's better is twofold. First of all, yes, they've moved to this screen system. And at first, I thought it was the usual twin screens that you get from the Hyundai group. Like Kia sometimes gets you a driver's display. No, it's not. It's a 27-inch OLED display. It's all one screen. And I only noticed it the other day, when you go into the map, this comes up, hopefully, and then with the map then bleeds right across into the instrument binnacle. So you get this whole width of map across here. It's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant. I really like it. And obviously it doesn't do the whole thing where you've got Apple CarPlay or Android Auto on, and it gets those as standard as well, wireless thing. But this whole screen is so nice. Really nice. And then instead of having this the instrument binnacle where you had the twin dials before, you've now just got the numerical readout here, and they've increased the size of the font and they've made it really crisper as well, so it's much easier to read now at a glance in terms of your speed and your range and your trip computer in the center. So that is a big improvement, and as I say, hands up, I'm really sorry, I didn't think I was going to like it. I really do. Having spent the week with this car, absolutely fantastic. I really like that. It's still a touch screen, as you can see here, and it still has the sort of different sort of the screens that you can scroll through depending obviously what you want. So if you want hang on, sorry, that's the sort of like the home screen you want, there you go. So you can go through the different pages of it via this, depending on what you want. But you also still get the sort of iDrive controller style down here again, which again is just so nice to use and so beautifully tactile. As I say, it's like the bezel on a dive watch. As you turn that, it just clicks, and it's got the most gorgeous bit of damping on it as well. So nice. And this is the thing. This was the thing that I really hadn't realised until I started living with the Genesis. All the little bits, Liz said it in her summary of our long-term car. She said, it feels like somebody's put thought into this, and somebody's gone, how can we make the experience better? And this is what I mean, the whole luxury side of it. No one, and I mean no one in this class, does this interior like Genesis do. Lexus come close, but BMW, especially Audi now, Mercedes, you're not even in the same ballpark. None of you are building interiors like this, and this feels so special up here. That's lovely. I really like that. That's improved, and as I say, I like the fact the map always extends into sort of like in front of you as the driver as well. You still got the ability to configure it as well, so you've got various different things that you can have in the middle here, so you can change that around so the trip computer's there, or you can move it across. You also get the camera view from the front now. You won't be able to see it because of the sunshine, but you can also get the view from the camera at the front there as well. There you can have that. The trip computer, as I say, the navigation map, and then your ADAS systems as well. So again, if you press and hold that, okay, it shows your lane keep assist and such like. That's improved as well. So it now has a lane keep assist, I think called lane keep assist 2, where you press, it will actually help you. And the old car didn't really, if you weren't gripping onto the wheel that well, it would keep telling you to hold the wheel. I think there's new sensors and things in it now, so now it knows there's a slightly lighter touch on the steering wheel that you are still holding it. So it doesn't sort of like chastise you as much now. You do now get this little center pod there for your driver monitor, which is a little bit of an annoyance, but there you go, you can turn it off. Talking of which, to turn off your speed limit warning, you press and hold the scroll wheel for the volume for 3 seconds. Speed limit warning sound is now off, and your lane keep assist is that button there. Press and hold that, and that turns that off. Simple. The only one that does it better than that is Renault with the My Personal button down here. That's it. There's a new steering wheel. Now, the only thing I will say is, like, design of it, it's really quite nice, 3-spoke design, but they've just upped the thickness of it, and it's I prefer the thickness of the old car. This is just a little, they've gone a little bit BMW-ish to me. That's just a slightly too thick steering wheel for my wee hands. That's the only thing I'd say, but you know, it's okay. And then you get this screen down here. So they've moved the heating and ventilation controls to down here. So you get your shortcut buttons here, which you can see when you go to map. These are touch sensitive here. Nav. They've got the haptic feedback, the capacitive feedback on them as well. So when you press them, you get the little click to say you've done it into your setup there. There you go. But the volume control, again, like this, remains that beautiful. So it used to be a scroll wheel on here. Now it's a knurled volume knob that you get there, and the same with the tuning one. Again, it just, the way it clicks as you go around, it's just lovely. And then you get this little touch screen down here for your heating and ventilation, so that always remains on. And as you see, you've got temperature settings. Again, they're the same as these, you know, they're actual physical controls either side. Your fan speed is dead in the center, and it's just a nice easy touch. And again, you can just get that little, you can hear that, you get that, it tells you you're doing it. And then same with airflow, ventilated seats, heated seats there, and some buttons to sync up either side on your heated rear screen. So I must admit, I didn't like the look of it in photographs. Now I've seen it in the flesh, now I've used it, I really like it. This here, this aluminium bezel, it's not half bright in the sunshine, but again, at least it's not glossy piano black. There's no glossy piano black in the car at all. There's a little bit on that bezel there and the steering wheel, but they're buttons, so I don't mind that. But you get this aluminium finish here. This is still your your transmission lever. So again, the way you turn that is really nice, and push for park, and it's aluminium and glass. Same with this. There's fingerprint recognition now as well, so again, setting up driver profiles, you can press that so that it knows who's driving the car. And then you've got your parking camera here, so you can see now you've got your 360 degree view parking camera. You can see all around it with that 3-dimensional view, which is really cool as well, and it's very accurate. Also shows you the colour of your car. And then I've got your terrain and drive mode button there, and then your parking one there. And then there's 3 glass buttons in front of the rotary dialer, one for back, one for home, and one to bring up the menu. Which if you press that, it'll bring up on the menu screen on there. There you go. Display off, rearrange, or phone connection settings. So you can use a touchscreen, or you can use this rotary dial. I love this interior, I really do. Now, I want to talk about materials. This car here has all the options on it. So this has got the Napa leather seat pack, and it is sumptuous. And that gives you the rollout on the underneath the driver's seat. Having done thousands of miles in one of these, to have that on, it really makes a difference. It's really nice. You can extend the squab. There's new ambient lighting. They've done away with the bits down the side of the console, which is a little bit of a shame. I quite like that. But they've still got these sort of almost Art Deco marble finish ambient lighting panels in the door, and at night it's just lovely. But the ambient lighting now comes from the middle of the dash as well, and underneath the dashboard, and it's just a really soft glow. And just the material in this car is just, it's way better than the competition. You know, leather up on the dash and doors, and the way the stitching all lines up as well, the way the aluminium vent runs into the door, and that all lines up. You've now got a Bang & Olufsen audio system as well. I think it's 17 speakers as standard with Atmos surround sound on it, which is impressive. Just silly things like the indicators, you know, the stalks themselves, the way they're just damped beautifully. And that's what I was meant. Somebody's taken some time to really engineer this properly, the way the controls move, and nothing feels cheap. Nothing doesn't feel bespoke to this car, and that's the difference. And as I say, when you look at, say, what Audi have done, how they've, you know, really come back on quality, and it's a real shame because Audi were the benchmark, nowhere near as good as this car, nowhere near it. You know, silly things like look, just the way that is damped, and then the way it clicks in place. I know that sounds really silly, but it's just, until you use it, it's just so good. The wireless charging pad's now a tray in front of the armrest. It used to be in a little cubby down there, which I quite liked. Obviously, you still get your 2 cup holders still there. I do want to talk about this armrest because they do a thing now called the Serenity Pack, which what you do is you put something in here, let's say your mobile phone, and you press a button in here and it blasts it with a UV light which kills 99.9% of bacteria. It also has an air atomizer in here as well, so it always smells nice. It purifies the air and stuff. Just lovely, really, really good. And the seats are so comfortable, the driving position's perfect, the materials are just another world away from everything else, and this is better. I thought it was good. It's not as big as I thought it was going to be as well. So actually, when you're sitting here, you know, again, you're looking over well over the top of it, and it's just a nice display, and everything's easy to read at a glance. You've also got a head-up display. Oh, and that's the thing, the mirror there, as I said to you, you now get the option of the digital rear view mirror. So if you've got a big load in the back, and because you've had to take a parcel shelf off to get suitcases in, you can now have it so it's the camera on the back that shows you the view out. Or if you've got 3 teenagers across the back, you can flip it and it shows you them there. Now, best interior in class, one of the best in any class, I think. Genesis are just absolutely nailing this, and I don't think there's another single car in this class. In fact, there isn't. There's nothing for this money that feels as special as this car inside. Trust me on that. It is gorgeous. Now, they've got a bigger battery that's fitted to the car now as well. So it's an 84 kilowatt hour battery, a lithium ion one, as opposed to the 77.4 kilowatt hour one that went in the previous car, the one I had. Ranges up 15 miles officially on the WLTP range, 298 miles Genesis say that it's capable of. Now, here's the thing. I do appreciate I was running my car through 6 months of winter last year, but I charged this car up to full the other night and it was showing in excess of 280 miles with 100% charge in it. Now, I know the weather's a lot warmer, but it wasn't preconditioned the battery or anything. I just plugged into the charger and it did it. And it was showing over 280 miles an hour. I never got close to that with my old car. So I think the efficiency is up as well. So I think they seem to have done a lot of work with that. Charging speeds are excellent. You know, it's 240 kilowatt charging speed, meaning because it's 800 volt architecture, although it's based on a combustion engine platform, it has 800 volt architecture. So a 10 to 80% charge in this, if you're using one of those ultra rapid 350 kilowatt Ionity chargers, for instance, is only 18 minutes. Phenomenal. You've got onboard 11 kilowatt charging as standard as well, plus a heat pump, as well as a battery heater, which you can also manually set yourself. So you can, if you're using the navigation with it, the car will precondition the battery, but you can go in and manually set it yourself as well. So that's quite a good thing as well. It also comes with vehicle to load as standard. However, the one downside with it is you have to pay extra to get the vehicle to load adapter, which is on this car, but it's not a cheap option. And in fairness, I think that's a bit mean and stingy, Genesis. Now, one bit that hasn't really changed about the car is the way that it drives, in some respects. It's still 490 PS. It will still do 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds. This is an incredibly fast car, there's no doubt about that. The one thing I will say, however, is it's not the sportiest drive in the world. It's 40, if you will, okay? But where it does excel, and I mean really, really excel at, is comfort and refinement and luxury. All of those things combined. You know, there isn't a car in this class that can beat this for how it makes you feel when you're driving it. So don't try and make it into sort of like a sports utility. That was always the issue I had with the car in some respects. The way they called it the Sport, you know, the GV70 Sport, it wasn't a sporty car, far from it. But my goodness me, was it comfortable, and it still is. But the one thing I want to talk about first is noise, or lack of it, because they've done two things with this. It gets acoustic glass, which my car had as well. You get acoustic glass. When you get the second row comfort pack, it puts acoustic glass in the back as well, so that does that. It also has, thanks to the Bang & Olufsen audio system, I'll start that again, thanks to the Bang & Olufsen audio system, noise cancelling system as well. So a bit like your noise cancelling headphones, what it will do with the speakers, all the noises that are coming in from the car, from the outside, it detects them and then counters it with a counterbalancing noise which cancels it out. It's so quiet. It's so quiet. It's eerily quiet. Really eerily quiet. You get a little bit of tyre noise, a teensy bit of tyre noise. That's it. You can't hear any of the motors. You can't hear any wind noise. Nothing. Absolutely silent in here. It is beautiful to drive this car, and having driven one, as I say, I haven't spent 6 months with one, you know, and driving it, you know, thousands of miles. It is just one of the most lovely cars I've ever had the pleasure of owning, and it's now even better. They've now made it even quieter. They've now made it just even more relaxing and more refined in here. I don't know how they've done it, but it's just those incremental little things that Genesis seem to be able to do. And you know, the comparison I always keep talking about is Lexus, and Lexus is the same. You know, they focus down on sort of like the minutiae of details and just get it right. I love that about them. Right. So that's the first thing that you notice. The second thing is, so the quietness is the first thing you notice. The second thing about the comfort, okay? Now obviously you've got different driving modes as you would expect to have in the car as well. And they're activated via the button that's down here. So there's a button here that says drive and terrain. So if you push it, it moves between drive and terrain. Sorry, if you press it down, it moves between drive and terrain. And then otherwise, if you just push it, you go from eco, comfort and sport, okay? And when it moves into sport, when you've got the comfort pack in the front, the seat bolsters kind of clamp you. Also, if you go above a certain speed, they do that as well. But the difference, I'd stay out of eco mode, but comfort's all you need because it's plenty fast enough. But in sport mode, jeepers creepers, Batman does this thing, pick its skirts up and go. It absolutely flies, but not at the expense of comfort. Because even though I'm in the sport mode now, it is literally ironing out this road surface, because what they've got is two cameras up here, and it scans the road ahead and it spots any imperfections, so a drain hole cover, a pothole, a change in surface, an expansion joint, you know, a dip in the road, and it calibrates the dampers to accommodate that change in milliseconds. And it is literally like it is ironing the road surface out. It is so comfortable, this car. It's just, I know I keep going on about it, and I know someone's going to go, God, could you get any more? So, like, you know, why don't you just marry the Genesis, Brian? Do you know what I mean? It's just perfection in this class of car. It is. I'm driving behind a new Range Rover at the moment, and I guarantee it is as comfortable, if not more, than that car in front. It's that good, this car. It is that good in terms of a luxury car, and it's half the price of that. Right, if there is a fault, and there is, the steering's still a little bit vague, and I don't like the fact they've thickened the wheel up a little bit. I like the style of the wheel, I like the style of it, and the design of it's nice. I'm not sure about the white. I think the white leather's questionable, but you know what I mean. I maybe should have done it in the grey at the top of the roll of the dash. But the actual design's nice, but it's just a little bit too thick. But it's vague, the steering, there's no doubt about it. It always was. You can feel it, even in the sport mode. If I move the wheel like that, it's not, the amount of movement you put into the wheel is not the same as the movement you get from the front wheels. And that's always been the problem with the Genesis, I've always found. The steering's just that bit on the vague side. And that's about it. Genuinely, that is about it. Now, the other thing that I mentioned earlier that you can have as well, or sorry, it does have, not that you can have, it does have, is virtual gear shift technology, okay? So I need to go and set this up, so let me get around this corner. So if I go into, let me go into the vehicle settings. If I go into settings, oh, it says, where is it? Settings, here we go. Vehicle. Drive mode, virtual gear shift. Okay, so you move down to brakes and cut. I move down to virtual gear shift. Pop that on now. Now I don't know if you heard that. If you can hear that, there's now a noise from the car. Okay, and it sounds like a low bassy rumble. Okay, so the paddles on the old car were pure and simply just for adjusting brake regeneration. They still are in the normal modes. But what you now have is the ability to change gear in this car. 8 ratios. It's in first gear effectively now. So it's very similar to what Hyundai fit to the Ioniq 5N, and obviously what Kia fit to the EV6 GT. So listen. That's what you've got. So your paddles are now gear shift paddles. And you get the display on the there, tell me what gear I'm in, and you can hear now the engine, and you can take the engine noise off, or digital noise off if you want, but I think you need that if you're going to use this, because just relying on being able to watch it isn't easy. You've got to listen. Hear it? Now I get it, it's another added facet to the car. Is it needed? I'm not sure it is. Personally speaking, I don't think that's what this car is about. However, I think some people will. I do like it. I think it's in the Ioniq 5N and the EV6 GT. I like that as well. And obviously this is Genesis. I think it will suit the GV60 better. I assume they're going to put it in the GV60. And if you don't want it, you can also just pull and hold on the right paddle, and it now goes back into drive. But it will still go up and down the gears. It's really odd. It's a really good system, in fairness. They have got it absolutely engineered right. But I'm just not sure that it suits the GV70. It's not on the G80 Electrified, the revised version of that, because they see that more as a luxury car. I'm kind of inclined to say that they should probably left it off this. But at least then you do have the choice. You don't have to have it on. You can choose to have it on or not. And I must admit, I've had, oh, that's something turning off. I've had it on once this week to try, and then that's the second time I've had it on just to, yeah, see, take it off now, and everything goes back to being really quiet. So personally speaking, it wouldn't be something that I would, put it this way, if it was an option, I wouldn't be ticking the box. The fact that it's got it, fine. Would I be using it? No, I don't think I would. Because it's not sort of like the whole 40 of this car, which for me is beyond doubt the way it just cosets you, how comfortable, how refined, how quiet this car is. And trust me when I say this, and I do mean this, there isn't another car in this class, and very few cars in classes above it, that feel as good and luxurious and comfortable and as refined as the Genesis GV70 Electrified. That's a bold statement to make, but it's one I'm going to stand on, because I think this car is absolutely 100% brilliant, and I also think it's the best car in its class for that reason. Fabulous car. Now, as I said earlier, there are now 3 trim levels on the electrified GV70. You start with the pure trim, and that comes in at £65,915, okay, before any options. They're all mechanically and technologically the same. It's just trim that changes, you know, so just equipment levels and the actual trim itself that changes. So it's not one's, you know, got a lower speed than the other, or, you know, different charging speeds or things like that. They're all the same in that sense. Then you move up to the dynamic. It's £70,715, and then top of the range is this luxury at £74,915. Now, they always did charge quite a lot for options, in fairness, and there always was quite a jump up in options. options. My old car, I seem to remember, started at 65,000. I think mine was about 88 by the time it finished. So there was a lot of options fitted to my car. But this one, let me run you through this one here. So this is 74,915 before options. This car has the Comfort Pack, Napa Leather Pack, the Serenity Pack, the metallic Capri Blue paint, as I say, vehicle to load, white calipers, and the digital center interior mirror. So pretty much all the options on this car, and this brings it up to £81,185. £81,185. There we go. So as I say, my old long termer was 78,000, and that still, it had pretty much everything on it as well. So the price has gone up. However, and I say, it's not an inexpensive car anyway, I get all of that, I'm not saying that it isn't, but think about value in some respects, okay? Because you're getting the bigger battery, bigger range, more technology with the car, so the price, although it has gone up, you're getting more for that price, and you don't have to go for this luxury model now. You can choose a lower specification grade if you just want, you know, the drive of the Genesis, but you know, with less of the luxuries. So that's quite a good thing. So it does offer better value for money than it did before, I think. And also remember, in terms of what you get with Genesis, no one touches it in terms of 5-year warranty, 5 years servicing, 5 years over the air updates as well. They come and collect your car, leave your Genesis loan car, and you know, bring it back to you when they're doing the servicing of the car. So in terms of the overall ownership package, which is all transferable as well, so if you keep the car for 3 years and you want to move it on, that is transferable. I think it offers good value for money within the class of car that it's in. And talking of this class of car, well, it has changed since the Genesis was first launched all those years back. Then it competed with things such as the BMW iX3, the Mercedes-Benz EQC and the Jaguar I-Pace. Well, we don't get the I-Pace anymore, and the BMW and the Mercedes, they're about to be changed this year. Audi have entered the market, however, with the Q6 e-tron, a car that I did a twin test with my long-termer, and I think this is a way better car than the Audi. And not just is it nicer to drive in some respects, not just is it, you know, sort of like technically better in terms of its sort of like, you know, its electrical architecture as well. Just it's the money, you know, for what you get for the money, and it just feels just so much more special than the Audi. I don't know what's happened with Audi, but they really have, you know, sort of like moved down the rankings in terms of quality as far as I'm concerned. And it's not just their electrical cars, it's their combustion engine stuff as well. They're not as good as they used to be, folks. That's just a fact. You've also maybe got competition from Porsche with the Macan. It's the same size of car, obviously, because that's based on the PPE platform that the Q6 is also based on. The Porsche is probably a bit more dynamic. It's probably a bit more of the, you know, for a driver. This is probably more luxurious in that sense. Maybe if you want a car that straddles both, there's the Maserati, the Grecale Folgore, a car we've yet to drive still, Maserati. But that's sort of the same, isn't it? Maserati, it's sort of, is it performance, is it luxury, is it sort of like a mixture of both? Who knows? But that's a car that could also be seen as a rival. And of course there's Lexus with the RZ. Now, they've just updated the RZ as well, and that's another brand that I'm a big fan of Lexus. I really do like them, but I was disappointed with the RZ 450e when I drove it. But I've driven the RZ 300e now, the single motor car. That was better, and they've just updated the car as well. There's been a facelift, things have changed. I haven't driven the updated 450e yet. I'm hoping to drive it very, very soon, but that is also another consideration for this car. And I do think Lexus are another brand that sometimes is forgotten about, you know, when you're thinking of sort of like, you know, these sort of like luxury prestige badges, if you like Lexus get a bit forgotten about and shouldn't be. But, you know, to me, in terms of what the Genesis offers you, you know, is very similar to what Lexus, you know, used to crow about: quality, refinement, luxury, you know, engineering, you know, all that kind of thing. There's also another car coming as well, probably first half of 2026 as well, from Volvo, which is obviously they're replacing their XC60, and that's going to come on board with an electric version of that, the EX60, just like they did with XC90 and the EX90. So you're also going to see competition coming from Volvo as well, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of others, you know, from some of the emerging Chinese brands that we're seeing coming into the European market as well, that are going to make a play for cars at this price point with this level of sort of like size of battery and this level of luxury as well. So the market's certainly there to be had. So as always, let's take a look at what we like and also what we don't like about the revised Genesis Electrified GV70. Well, we still love its styling. That interior feels way more special than anything else in this class. as does the comfort and refinement, and it's unrivaled by the obvious choices. The electrical architecture is still at the top of the class. And of course, there's the Genesis after sales and overall ownership package that no one else seems to be able to touch. We don't like. Well, the boot is still a little bit shallow, so it does lack a little bit of practicality. The steering is still a little vague. A genuine 300 mile plus range would have been nice to have. And there's no doubting it still can get quite pricey with some of the options fitted. They say that familiarity breeds contempt. And I wonder whether or not the familiarity that we have with the usual brands that we normally buy, BMW, Mercedes-Benz and Audi, has led to a contempt from them towards some of their customers. Now, it's very easy to go with the comfortable choice, isn't it? It's very easy just to sort of, head down to your local BMW, Mercedes or Audi showroom and order a car that you're familiar with. But you've really got to question what those brands are offering you for the price that they're charging you for it. And that's the struggle that Genesis are facing at the moment. It's showing you that there is not just a different alternative, but a better alternative than what those manufacturers currently offer you, because I think the Genesis GV70 is exactly that. It's a better alternative than what else you can buy in this market space. Now, we can argue here whether or not you prefer the handling of a BMW or the design of an Audi. That's not a question, that maybe is a personal choice. But when it comes to ownership value, and let's be honest, that's what we're talking about here, owning a car, the whole ownership package that you get with the Genesis, not just the product itself, but the after sales care, the warranty, and then there is the product itself, which in my view is way ahead of what the likes you get from the German top three, then I think we have indeed a new definition of the word madness. In other words, somebody that has the ability and means to buy a Genesis GV70 but chooses an Audi instead. This is a real hidden gem in the marketplace, and it's not, as I say, just an alternative to the brands. It's a better car than what else is out there. It was good before. They've made it even better still. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV. As always, please make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel, and then when you've done that, make sure you then press the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you receive a notification when our next video is uploaded and has gone live. If you've enjoyed this week's review, and I sincerely hope you have, make sure you give a little thumbs up, and as always, don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Genesis Electrified GV70? Would you have this over an Audi Q6 e-tron? Or didn't you? Did you even know about it? Did you even look at it before you went and bought a BMW, Mercedes or an Audi? Have you got one? Have you got one of the older models, the pre-facelift one? What do you think about what they've done to it? Would it tempt you to change, or do you think they've not done enough to it? Have you got one of the petrol or diesel ones and maybe you're thinking of going electric? Is this now going to tip you in favour of that? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're across on all social media as well, so if you're into Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, we're over on all those different platforms, so if you want to give us a follow there, we'd certainly appreciate it. And remember, if you're in the marketplace for an electric car, it might not be a new Genesis Electrified GV70, hey, good value second-hand cars, the old ones now, that's a real cracking piece of value now. So if you want to know what we thought about the car originally, how do you find out? Well, here's how. You stay on the AutoEV homepage on the YouTube channel, okay? And just at the top there, you'll see a little magnifying glass. You see it? Right? Type in there the name of the car you're interested in. And if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 5 or 6 years, then of course we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. We'll see you again soon.